Hi friends, welcome to session 5 on Lean Six Sigma Green Belt series, and we are in what is Six Sigma, and today we are going to learn about what are Lean Six Sigma common principles. Before I take you to the entire course today, let me also tell you that we are following this ebook which you can request if you want this so that you can follow it at your end, and we are in chapter 1, what is Six Sigma. Before we get into our session again, what are Lean Six Sigma common principles, you can go and watch this session 1 video, what is Lean Six Sigma, which will first give you an understanding of a higher level Lean Six Sigma, and that's how you can relate these principles to this as well. So let's start with our first topic, which is, so organization can impact their sigma levels. Sigma levels is nothing but the variations as we discussed earlier, by integrating core principles from the Six Sigma methodologies, especially into leadership styles, process management, and improvement endeavors. The principle of Six Sigma and the tools used to achieve them are covered in detail in various sections, but some common ideas are introduced below. So let's go through one by one what it is. First one is customer focused improvement. Second one is continuous process improvement. Third one is process control. Fourth one is reduce variations, removing waste, and equipping people. Now, while we talk about all these things, there are so many other principles as well, but these are at a high level for you to understand it easily. So we can go in depth into each of these things, but for the green belt level, let me just try to help you understand what does this mean exactly. So the first one, right? And before we get into the first one, which is the customer focused improvements, if you remember in the few of the sessions earlier, I shared with you that customer is always at the end, and whatever we have to do it for the customers, right? So it is important that the customer is happy. Now, for customer focused improvement, what does it mean is, let's take an example. Suppose you are working in organizations where they're trying to improve the cycle time of delivery. There is a delivery and they want to improve the cycle time of it. Or the second project can be that trying to improve the throughput of a process, that is the overall output what we get of a process. They're trying to also improve the employee productivity in certain departments. Then they're also trying to reduce repair and maintenance cost, and last but not the least, reduce the average talk time for a calling process, for a telecalling voice process, right? Now, if you go through all these things, it is not essentially that each of this project will have an humongous impact on the customer, right? There can be few areas where if you say maybe number 1 and number 4 can have some impact on the customer, but customer may not have a direct impact on the employee productivity. Customer may not have a direct impact when you try to improve a throughput of a process, right? So the first thing is, all improvement initiatives must be aligned with the customer requirements, not organizational requirement only. It has to be organizational requirement. At the same time, it has to be a customer requirement. Now let's go to the next part. Next is continuous process improvement. This term is a little confusing because improvement means improvement, and what does continuous improvement means? Prima facie, you can say that anything which we try to improve slowly but surely, that is continuous improvement. Yes, it is continuous improvement, but there is a different understanding to it. For example, you have approach 1. In approach 1, what you do is, you have maybe thousands of processes across the organization, and based on the high impact processes, you pick all those projects which has got the maximum advantage, right? Where you will get the maximum impact, be it cost, be it customer satisfaction, whatever it is. However, the real approach for a continuous process improvement should be you stick to process 1, and then within process 1 you do improvement 1 this year, then improvement 2 next year, so that it is a slowly but surely continuous improvement. It is not bits and pieces. You are coming to process 1 today, improving as a project, going back to process 2, improving, working on the improvement project, coming back here. So it should be, each of this area should have a very structured approach to improve, right? It can be slow, doesn't matter, but it has to be a structured approach. Now let me take an example, hypothetical example, and help you understand this. Let's take an example where we have a fiber optics network organization and who has got a global presence. And this sort of organizations, you know, they would have millions of processes, right? Each country, each region would have their own processes. Each smaller technology would have their own processes. So there are millions of processes we are talking about. Now let's take, this is one process, and at a high level I have just jot down some images for you. This is the second sort of process for you. There is a third process, there is a fourth process, right? So continuous improvement means you start with one process. Let's assume that we start with this process, right? This is the very simpler level of a fiber optics internet service organization, and this is the way we get internet at our home for fiber networks, right? So this is, let's take example of this one. Now when we are talking about continuous improvement, the organization should focus on this part, that a team should focus on this area, and they start working on all those customer requirement and do it one by one, right? It is not that they start with this, go back here, come back here again, then go back here again, then come back to the original process. Not like that. That is erratic. It has to be in a structured manner. So that is what exactly continuous improvement means. Now let's also go to the next step of this. So let's take this example itself, the system design, and let's assume this is an illustration of a optic fiber transmission process at a regional level or at a local level, right? Now what happens is, suppose we have this control stations, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 different control smaller stations, which ensures that the speed of the internet is consistent across all this. Now assume that we don't monitor at all. These 4 points we don't monitor. Maybe we monitor the larger one, and we don't monitor after that. What happens after that, right? So this sort of controlling the variations or the defects within all these processes is what known as process control. And where does it lead to? If you see here, as illustration, all this network goes to the customer only, right? So we have a customer who is using all these things at the end. Now any inconsistency here will impact the customer here, right? So first is the process, there is a supplier, and then we have the customer here. If we don't control all these points 1, 2, 3, 4, the customer will not have a very smooth experience, consistent experience, right? Now let me take you to the next step as well. So what will happen if we don't know what is happening here? It might be that there is an internet, the internet speed is extremely inconsistent. Sometimes the data speed goes up, sometimes it comes down, then again it is stagnant, then goes down. Something like this keeps happening, right? And this is exactly what Lean Six Sigma also principle is, that you reduce the variation, you be at a consistent level and start improving from there. It should not be erratic like this. And if you go to couple of my earlier examples as well, I have given a very simple example of a pizza delivery process where what does it mean exactly to variations. I'll share all those links in the description, and I would recommend if you go through that as well and then come back and relate it here again. So now let's go to the next one. We talked about variation earlier. Now the next one is removing waste. fundamentally, if you know the fiber optic network, or if you are a customer, then you know that there is something called a copper connections and there is something called a fiber connection, right? And copper is the variation is very high and the speed is also quite low than the fiber optic, right? So removing waste means, how do we remove that waste? This copper, the additional leakage in the copper, the resistance it provides to the internet, that is the waste here. And we are trying to remove it by fiber optic, which is a considerable improvement. So that is what removing waste in a process means. Going to the next one. The next one is equipping people. While we do all these things, it's okay to do improvements and all, but at the same time it is important that we develop all our peoples first. They should know what they have to do, what they're supposed to do. So training and development is a very critical area, and while you implement, change management is another critical area. The potential of each and every associate or every persons in the organization has to be nurtured. You should know that what is the potential of a human resource and improve it further. Then analyze your targets, your entire problem areas, and then finally improve the skills, prepare a goal, and plan for the rest, right? So that's how the improvement, the entire ecosystem of equipping people in improvement, especially Lean Six Sigma world, would be. Now, while we just scroll through all these things, but there is more to come in upcoming sessions. Hope you will understand and learn that as well. Now, while we spoke about the principles, next session we will see what are the challenges as well in the Lean Six Sigma world. And this needs to be addressed to ensure that the principle works. So next session would be challenges of Lean Six Sigma, and see you there. Thanks a lot for watching, and hope you will enjoy. Thank you.